I'm Troy Hipolito. I actually own a few companies. One is Return Client, and so we actually combine some of the automation with the person or with the relationship building, and kind of put them together. And so we took a hybrid approach. We're like a whole agency at a subscription price. And so the way we look at it and the way we explain to clients is that if you purchase a list, they typically, a good list is about $3,000 and up, and you have to replenish that list every month or whatever. And then you have to do all your prospecting, right? So that runs you about $2,000-3,000 a month. If you get a consultant, they typically charge you $4,000 or $5,000 a month for something similar. And if you hire an agency, which agencies have usually better results than an individual consultant, you end up paying $8,000 or above for that kind of work. And so we try to concentrate the value of that work within a more affordable price. So that's one thing that we try to project and try to explain to the clients that, hey, you're going to spend your money somewhere. So you might as well spend a small portion here and have your other efforts. As far as what it looks like, I can explain the service of what we do, and I can also explain how it looks to the client as well. So what we end up doing is just saving the client time. So a client can do everything that we do if they would spend about 6 or 7 hours a day doing it. So you can either spend the time in doing it or pay someone to do the things that you would have to do. And so what we try to provide is all that work within their LinkedIn ecosystem to save them time. So in order to do that, we congregate all the information together and provide them with a daily list. So they get a list Monday to Friday, and that list is who they need to speak to, who's interested, who might be interested, and who are in the other conversations. They also have access to an ongoing spreadsheet that a human actually puts together for them on a daily basis. So that way they can go on their LinkedIn messenger and actually just respond to them directly, or they can wait for the list and copy and paste it, or use the list as a backup. It depends on the methods that the client uses. But it's much better to kind of spend 30 minutes to an hour a day responding to the correct people versus spending 6 or 7 hours a day just putting information out there and not even able to get back to them. So that daily list is very, very important because it allows them to concentrate on what's important at that point. We have a team of writers, we have LinkedIn experts, we have account managers, we have software people, and all that sort of thing. And then we also have formulas. And these formulas are within these campaigns. And we have not just one campaign, but right now we have 5 different campaigns that happen at the same time. Some are driven towards connecting with individuals and building a relationship in that way. And the system knows when to back off as well. So if someone responds at a certain time, they know to back up. The writing is really well done in the formulas, so it doesn't really upset individuals as casual speaking in order to engage conversations until they would raise their hand and say yes. We have a campaign that reaches out to InMail, and it doesn't have the limitations of purchased InMails. It gets around that. There's a lot of tricks that we use that are legitimate, that if people just knew about it, they would use all the time. And so we're able to send out, 100 and something InMails alone a day without any credit cost or anything like that. We have 3 different InMail campaigns. One may be like a one-shot deal to explain what you're doing. And InMail is a little more direct in that way than versus connecting and casually building up that trust factor. Usually InMail was thought to be a one-shot deal, but we also have a cadence, a drip that you can break it down into smaller digestible conversations over a period of time. And we also have an InMail campaign where so you don't go over your threshold and asking for connections, you can ask them through InMail as well. We have a campaign that reaches your current network. which a lot of people leave money on the table. People have 4, 5, 6, 7,000 people in their network and up. There are a lot of potential clients in there that you're just not touching base with. Why don't you just automate that, conversation to let them know that you're still there in what you're doing? We even have a social media campaign which posts stuff for you, on your threads and that sort of thing. A lot of people will say when they respond to a happy birthday message and the client says thank you, they just miss that opportunity to have a conversation with them. Although something as mundane as an event-driven thing like a happy birthday or a new job, it's important to know how to respond to those things. So even though they're not interested now, they need to know who you are and why you are. And so a lot of times we train individuals to say, hey, you're definitely welcome. By the way, just so you know, this is what I do. I said, if it sounds interesting, hit me up, or book a call, or let's have a call, or whatever. That one line will convert one out of 30 of those messages. Well, if you get one extra deal every 2 months out of that, it's a huge deal. Most of these B2Bs aren't selling deals every single day. They're trying to sell a deal once a month or once every 2 months or whatever it is that they're selling, depending on the price structure. And so if you're able to increase a deal every other month, just from replying to some of those other conversations, it's well worth it. The process of onboarding a client, we actually have a whole kit. And there's one document, it's an intake document. And they can call it strategy document, intake document, you name it. But it's one document. And that's the hardest thing for the client. It takes them about 2 hours to fill out, right? So that's the hardest pill to swallow. And in some instances, we fill it out together, whatever we need to do to get that one document. But most of the time, they're pretty good. So once they fill it out, we assign a writer on it. And those 5 campaigns, I could probably share my screen and show you, but the 5 campaigns are pretty detailed. Every single message is a formula. It tells when it's sent, the range when it's sent, what's the purpose of that one message, within the context of that campaign. What should you write in it, and then step-by-step instructions. And we even get an example of a message in there, and the writer produces this based on that intake document. And then what happens is the client approves that, they make little tweaks on it. They can make changes of content, it's pretty easy. So what I did is I actually produced a document for my clients. But I said, you know what? Everyone else is gonna want this document because this is really teaching you some daily strategies, and people don't know how to respond to those messages. This is one of the hardest things. So I actually produced a video on it, and I went down, and one of the techniques were actually to go back to people who have endorsed your skills. And I sent out 50 of them on the LinkedIn Messenger. And I said, because they already endorsed me, so they're gonna do me a favor probably, They're like, oh yeah, I endorsed them. Yeah. So I say, thanks for endorsement. Can you check this out? I would like you to like, share, and comment if it makes sense to you. I would really appreciate it. Just 50 of them. And then, and I went to maybe a couple of groups, maybe 3 or 4 groups, and submitted the same thing to that. I think I submitted it 2 days ago. And I have 7,446 views. And that translates to about 10 meetings. And of course, I spent a day on the document. And I spent a day replying to people as, thanking them and giving them the document and creating that conversation. But having 10 meetings means I can convert at least 2, 3 of them, and those are ongoing clients. Yeah, well worth 2 days of work. Every client is different. If they respond pretty quickly, the results are usually pretty good. Certain industries are better than others. Not all B2Bs are equal. I get between, take a look on my document, but I get between 40 and 50 responses a day. And out of that, I will get between 2 and 6 people that are actually interested, and a bunch are maybe, and a bunch of others are conversations that you kind of have to cultivate, stuff like that. But for the typical customer, if I had to bring it into a medium level, my results are better than most. just because I'm in it, you know. And I have a huge network and I have certain advantages. But most clients get between 15 and 20 replies a day. And out of that, they'll get one or two interested, several others, several maybes, and then a little more others, and some not interested, you know, that sort of thing. And so as long as you're getting 5 to 10 interested people a week, it's a really good thing, because you can actually spend time on those people who need to spend time on. And with those maybe, you can cultivate that into converting to a meeting pretty easily as well, you know. And the others, you have to go. So to respond to, say you get 20 responses, and we report 15 of them because 5 of them are, say, not interested at all. We put them on a blacklist. So you have 1 or 2 interested, you have, say, 4 maybe, and then the rest other, right? Well, it should take you about 30 to 45 minutes to properly spend time to communicate with those individuals. And you can really think about what you're saying. You know, use some common sense strategies where you're looking at the message, and then you're going through the thread, and you're going to the profile, and you actually are responding. And so the worst thing you do is just type, respond, and go and move on, and that sort of thing. People don't like that. People like real people that engage with that individual and that spend time to figure out, you know, what is it that they want. You know, it's not really important what we want. We need to figure out what they want, what their pain is, what do they want to talk about. And even if they go in a direction where I can't help, I probably can help. You know, I have a huge network. I have a huge IT background. They ask my advice for something, I will give it, you know. If they need an introduction to someone and I think they're a pretty decent individual and I want to connect them, I will.